Hey class, and welcome back. I have nothing cringy to say in this intro, so let's just get to it. Alright, so in the last class we fetched all our posts and showed them on the homepage. So it would be nice to actually now have a login and a register form, so let's do just that. Alright, let's go to our app. And here in the register component, we're gonna use a form. So let's say up here, import form from Semantic UI React. And the way form works, if you go to the Semantic UI React documentation, is that you just put a form and inside of it you put a form field, and then inside of that you can put a label and then an input with all the props that you want it to have or the attributes. But there's another way, which is better in my opinion to do, is that you just have a form input here and you put all those props inside of just this one component. So we'll use that approach. So here inside of the div here, instead of saying just the header one, we put a form. So let's say form, and you will have an onSubmit, which is on submit, which we haven't created yet, but we will. And we will say as well no validate, because HTML5 by default tries to validate email fields. So here we'll say we'll have a header one saying register, and here we'll have our first form field. So we'll say form dot field, or input rather. And here we'll say, actually we'll not close it, we'll have a couple of attributes here. We'll have a label for the register, and it will, actually this is the first field, which is going to be the username field. So we'll have a label saying username, and we'll have a placeholder saying username like this. Actually this needs to be capital U as well. We'll have a name, which we'll use to identify what field this is when we're like changing and submitting stuff. So this will be username like that, and we'll have a value. I'm gonna give this, actually we can initialize this right now. So we'll say const, and we'll have values, and we'll have set values equals use state, and it's gonna be these default values will be username. We'll have an empty string, and we'll have a password, which is an empty string. We'll have an email, which is an empty string, and we'll have a confirm password, which is an empty string as well. Okay, this doesn't make sense in terms of order. Doesn't matter that much, but I just like to keep it kind of the same order that I'll put the fields. All right, so here we'll have the value would be value.username or values.username. And here we'll have an onChange. So onChange will be onChange, which we'll create in a moment. So let's close this. So this is our first input. Let's copy this 3 more times. 1, 2, 3. So the second one will be the email. So the label will say email. The placeholder will say email. The name will say email, and I should have controlled D, but I'll do it in the next one. The values as well, values.email. So here let's click here and control D once and say password. And the name, click here and control D1 and say password like this with a lowercase p. And here let's click here and say confirm password like this. And here this will be confirm password like that. And of course we need a button for submitting this form. So we'll have a button. This is a semantic UI button, so we need to import it in a second. So this will be of type submit because it's a form. Let's give it the primary attribute so that it becomes blue. And you will say register. All right, let's go up here. We need to bring button. And we also need to import use state from React because we're using it. So we'll say use state like that. Let's now write these onSubmit and onChange. So here we'll say const onChange equals, we'll take an event, and it will it's just gonna set the values. But remember here we need to spread our existing values, otherwise it's just gonna override it with one key value attribute pair. And here we need to get event.target .name. This is going to be the name of the field because it's going to be this name right here, and event.target.value to give it that to give it the value of that. All right, so that's that for onChange. Now we need the onSubmit. So here we'll say const onSubmit submit equals, it's gonna take the event, and we're gonna first, of course, prevent default. So prevent default, and here we need to check and send our, actually we don't check, we're not going to do any client-side validation because we already have our server-side validation, so we need to straight away send a mutation to our server and persist these users if the data is valid. So here we'll actually write our GraphQL mutation. So here we'll say const register user, and it will be GQL. We need to import this as well, so we'll say mutation register, and this will take a couple of variables. So it will take a username of type string, and that's required. We can just copy this just to be like quick, so 3 more times. So we'll have an email, a password, a confirm password, and here, so after this we'll say like that, and this will trigger the register mutation, which takes a register input if you remember our server code, and this will have a couple of things, and this will have a username. It's the same things, but we need to give them as variables here. So username, and we can just copy this 3 more times, and here will be an email, here will be the password, and here will be the, oops, I need to Control D and say confirm password. Alright, so after this is triggered, we need to get a couple of fields back. So we'll get all of them. So the ID, the email, the username, the created at, and of course, most importantly, the token, the JWT token. Of course, we need to import GQL. So let's go up here. We'll say import GQL from GraphQL tag. And we need to as well the use mutation hook. So we'll say import use mutation from at Apollo / React hooks, not common hooks. All right, so here we'll say, let's remove this white space. We'll say const, and we'll get a couple of things from here, from this. So we'll use array destructuring, and let's call this function add user, and we'll have a couple of things from here, but we'll just get the loading. And here we'll say equals use mutation, and we'll pass it our register user mutation. And here for the options, we'll have a function called update, and this will be triggered if the mutation is successfully executed. So this will give us a couple of things. The proxy that we will rarely use. It's got some metadata, and here we'll have a result. This will hold the result of the mutation. So here let's just console log the result for now and see what happens. And I think, yeah, this is it for now. Oh, we need to give the variables, because this is a mutation. We need to give some variables of the mutations. We can do here. So username is values.username, and then attach the other 3. But since the object of values is the same, that is those values that we want to send, we can just say variables is values. Simple as that. And now, of course, we need to trigger this add user function when we submit our form. But the thing is, we can't just put it here, and we can't put this above here. Or can we? Well, actually we can. Yeah, we can just put this above here. And so we have access to the add user. Yeah, so you can just say add user like this, and that will work. All right, let's, I think this is it. Let's save. Let's make sure that we have no errors here. We don't, cool. It says that we're not using loading, but we'll use it in a second. All right, so let's look at our form. All right, it's way too wide. Let's fix that. So here for our wrapping div, we can give it a class name of form container, or container, like this. And let's go to our app CSS. Here we'll say .form-container, and we can just say width is 400 pixels, and let's give it a margin auto, so it's pushed to the middle. Auto. Let's save all files. All right, it looks much better now. Okay, let's open up the console window, put them side by side, and see what happens if we just send. yeah, if we just send the form empty like that, we get errors. We can't see them here, but they're actually encapsulated in the errors object that we can get from this. But if we register a new user successfully, let's say new, let's give some valid data, so new and new email.com, and here we'll say 1 through 6, and oh, actually I forgot to say this is of type password, so let's quickly change that. So here these passwords are, where are they? Oh, I didn't even give the type actually, so let's give the type to these just for good measure. So this one will be type, this is the username, type text. Just copy this. Here we can just give a type of email, and for the password we'll give a type of password, and we can just copy this one more time and give it to the confirm password a type of password as well. All right, let's look at our app. Now if we type something here, it's hidden. So here we'll say new, and the email will be new@email.com, and the password will be 1 through 6, and the confirm password will be the same thing. And we hit enter. There we go. We get data back, which holds a data object, which holds a register object because that's the name of the mutation, and we get exactly the fields we want. All right, that's brilliant. But what we want to do is we want to redirect to the home page once the user is registered successfully, and we want to use that loading boolean when we send some data. We want it to see like spinning. That's really easy with semantic UI. What we can do, let's go to our form here. We can give it a class name, and if the class name is loading, it's gonna have a spinner in the middle. So here we'll have actually a dynamic value, and we'll say if loading, it's the loading that we got from the use mutation. Then we give it a class of loading, else we give it like just an empty class like that. All right, let's save. So let's go to our app. And here you can see briefly the loading spinner comes for a second and then goes because like the response comes way too fast, but it does have a loading effect. All right, so what we need to do now is we need to handle errors, because we can get some errors from our request and we need to show them on our form. So here, after the update, I'm gonna say on error, which is this other function, or other function that we have, and it holds the error. And here we'll say actually, what do we do? Oh, we need to actually have some errors in our component, and then we set them here if they exist. So here we'll say const, and we'll have errors like this, and we'll have a set errors function equals use state, and we'll pass this an empty object like that. And inside of here, so if we get errors, we just want to say set errors. Let's put a comma here. And these will be inside of error dot GraphQL errors. I get some autocomplete because I typed it before. But here, GraphQL errors, you can return multiple errors. But the way our server code is written is that we give one error, and inside of that, there's an object that holds all those errors. So we will access the first error like this in this array, and we say dot extensions, which is this object that's inside of it, dot exception, and here we have put our errors, if you remember when we wrote this code in our server code. So here we set those errors to these errors, and we can actually console log them just to make sure that this is what we're looking for. So here we'll say console log, and we console log exactly that, and then we set it to our errors. But of course we need to show them on our markup. So I didn't find a way how to do this with Semantic UI React, but so I'm just going to use the Semantic UI CSS because we have access to that as well. So here we'll have a div, or just like this, .ui.error.message, and here we need to put a UL with a class of list. And here we need to loop through our errors and access them. But the way our errors work is we get a key called, for example, username, and then we get an error called username must not be empty. So we don't need the keys, we just need to show the errors. So what we need to do is object.values. So we access the values and not the keys of errors, because we have that in our state, or like set state variable, .map, and we map through them. So for each value, we want to display an li. So we just do like this, parentheses. We'll display an li. Since we're iterating through an array, we need to say, we need to give it a key because we're in React. And this key will be the value because these are unique. And here we'll say, and what it contains as well is the value of this error. And of course this is conditional because we might not have errors at all. So let's cut that. And here we'll say, we can, if we check if we just have errors, it will be truthy because we have errors all the time and it's an empty object at the beginning. So what we need to check if this errors has any keys. So we'll say object.keys of errors dot length bigger than 0. So if the length of it is bigger than 0, then there is some keys and that means we have some errors. So let's show this. So we'll say and we put parentheses and we put everything back in here. Alright, so let's save that. Let's go to our app. Okay, let's submit an empty form, and right now we should get an error for username, for email, and for password as well. And we do. So username must not be empty, email must not be empty, and password must not be empty. But let's invalidate these as well because it makes more sense to see the ones that are not valid invalidated. We can simply do that by, so in the field we'll add this error property. So error property, which is a boolean, so it's either true or false. But here we'll give it a dynamic value. So for username, we're going to check for errors.username. And if that's truthy, so we'll put a ternary operator and say true, else it's false. There's no error for username. So let's copy this, paste it here for email and change this to email. Let's paste it for the password and change it to password. And let's put it to the confirm password and change it to confirm password. Let's save that. Let's look at our form. Let's make it full screen. And here let's say, so let's have no username and let's put a valid email. So new@email.com and put like, I'll put 1 through 6 and then here put 1 through 7. So there we go. It says username must not be empty and passwords must match. So let's fix that. That's fixed. You get just username. And if I put new here and say register, just press enter. Oh, actually the username is taken because we registered that new user. So here we can say new to, and it register. Oh, it says username is taken. Do I have new to as well? Okay, so I have a new and I have a new to in the database. So I'm just gonna delete those for now and test again. Let's delete this as well. Where is it? Yeah. Oh, that's confusing. New is here. Let's delete that. Oh, actually, one thing I forgot. So here, once we submit and it's successful and we add a user, on the update here, once we get our successful result, we need to redirect to the home page. So here we'll say props.history.push. And we'll just push the slash, which is the home page. And of course, we need to take our props as well from the parent component. All right, so let's save that. Proxy, we don't need to use it, so we can omit it and just put an underscore here. So let's go to our app right here. And here, let's put some valid data. So we deleted that new user, so we can use this again. So let's say new at email.com. And let's put 1 through 6, register. There we go, we get a cool spinner and we are logged in and we go to the home page and we get this token back. Now, of course, we're not putting this token in any application state or anything for now, but the register is working and it's sending a request and we're successfully registering this user. And if we check, there we go, new@email.com. All right, let's do the same for the login page as well. So what we need to do is, actually we can copy everything from here, from the register page, and we go to the login component and paste everything. Here, actually one thing that I want to do is let's put this on change and the on submit, let's put them in a custom hook because otherwise we're repeating the same code across two components. So let's copy this. Actually, let's open up the side here. Let's create a new file inside a folder called util. So util/hooks, and here we'll keep our custom hooks. So from the login, we can copy the on change, and here let's import. We'll need use state because we want to store the values here as well from React, and here we'll say const export const. I've written this hook for the custom hook video that I have, so you might be familiar with it. So this will be, it will take a callback, and I'll explain what this does in a second, and it will take an initial state, and this will be by default an empty object, and it will do the following, and here we'll have let's paste that, and then let's copy as well this values from here, or like this from here, and let's paste it here, but this will be actually the initial state. So here in the login, or actually in the register, let's fix the register first. So here we'll say const initial state equals that, and here in the hook we take an initial state, and then we use state, and we pass it the initial state like that, and the onChange will be, I think, the same. Yeah, it's the same. So we get an event and we set values, these values to that, that's fine. And then we'll have the onSubmit, so we'll say const onSubmit. We'll take an event, and it will event.prevent default. Oops, I misspelled default like that. And here it will call that callback, because the thing is, we don't, depending on what page this use form is used in, the callback can be different, right? I know in our case it's not, but we make it more generic by passing this callback and then calling it from here. Now, of course, we need to return these values and the onChange and the onSubmit so that we can use them in the component. So we'll say return, and we turn an object with the onChange, the onSubmit, and the values like that. All right, so our hook is done. Let's save it. And here in the register, let's import that hook. So here we'll say import, what is it called? Use form. Actually, because it's not the default, we need to do like that. From, go back one level to util/hooks. So here we don't need to say this like that. We just need to extract those. So we'll say const, and we'll get the onChange, the onSubmit, and the values from use form. So this will take a callback. Let's give it the add user function as the callback, and let's give it the initial state, which is going to be this. So let's copy what's inside of this initial state. We can just pass it like that without actually declaring a variable here. So here we have those. We have the onChange and the onSubmit, so we can just remove this, and we can remove this. So, but the problem here, of course, the add user is not recognized up here, but as well, if we take this and we put it underneath here, the values up here will not be recognized because they're coming from here. So a workaround around this is we can declare a function here, say function, let's call it register user, and this will simply just call the add user function, which we get from here, and then we can pass this as this callback right here. Now you might be wondering, what the hell, why does this not be recognized up here, but this will? But the way JavaScript works is that all the functions with a keyword function in front of them at the beginning of the program are hoisted, meaning that they are brought up and kind of read through initially, and then even if it's down here but it has the function keyword, it's actually recognized up here, unlike the const variable functions. All right, so this should be fine. Let's we didn't actually see our console log errors, but of course, seeing the result of what happened, we are getting the proper errors. So we can remove these console logs, and let's save everything. Do we not? Yeah, we don't have any errors. Let's check. Let's make sure that everything works the same in a login form. So we go here. All right, cool. So everything works the same. The onSubmit is working. And as well, if we submit some valid data, so here we'll say, I don't know, some just random email for now, and put 1 through 6. There we go, registered, and we're redirected to the home page. So the hook is working fine. Well, now we need to integrate it in the login form. So here, let's import it. So let's say import use form from. Go back one level to util/hooks. And here this is login, not register. Oops, log in. And here we have the errors the same way. We'll have a const, and this will be, let's call it login user. And this will call a mutation of a login user, which we'll create in a second. And update, it will, let's not console log that. We will push to the home page the same way, and we will set the errors the same way. Nothing changes here. And the onSubmit is the same, except it's gonna call, what is it gonna call? It's gonna call the login user from here. And then Oh, actually, no, we don't have an on submit. We're going to use the use form hook, excuse me. So here we'll have the on change, the on submit, and we'll have the values from use form and our callback. So let's make this the callback. So here we'll say function login user. Since we already have login user, let's just call this login user callback like that, and it will simply call the login user. So we'll pass it here as the callback in the login form, and the initial state will be a username. So we only have a username and a password on the login form. It's going to be an empty username, and the password will be an empty password. So the login user will do that, we'll call that, and we'll do the same thing, the callback. All right, so here in our markup, we have a form, the same thing, same stuff here, but for the header, we'll say login. And for the input, we'll have just 2 inputs. So here, let's remove this. Let's keep the password input and remove the email input. So here we'll have a username, the same stuff, nothing changes, and the password as well, the same stuff, nothing changes. So here in the button, we'll say login instead of register. And here for errors, nothing changes as well. But here, instead of register user, we'll have a login user. And here we'll have the mutation of login, and we will remove the email, and we'll remove the confirm password. And here we'll have the mutation login, and we don't have a register input, so we can remove that like this, and we can remove the email, and we can do the password like that, and we can remove this, and we'll get the same data as well from the login mutation. All right, let's save everything. Let's check if this is working. We have no errors, or we have an error. So register is not defined. Oh, because I'm exporting register at the bottom. All right, so here we will export login. Let's save. All right, cool, no errors. Let's check our app. All right, login form, we get this form, and if we log in with empty, it says username must not be empty. And if we put a username, it says password must not be empty. If we put the wrong password, so I'll put 1 through 7, click login, it loads, and then it says wrong credentials. But if I put the correct credentials, 1 through 6, I click enter, and voila, we are logged in and we get redirected to the home page. Now, of course, we're not changing the nav bar right here because we still have those buttons, because we don't have an actually application-wide kind of context that knows that we're logged in or not, which we will do in the next class. So look forward to that. Again, thank you for watching. Let me know in the comments if you get stuck with anything, or if you have like a question, and let me know actually if you like this bigger font size, because it's pretty massive. All right, so thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye.